Chapter 18. And the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself toward the ground, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts. After that ye shall pass on, for therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, So do, as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened into the tent unto Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the hearth. And Abraham ran into the herd, and fetched a calf tender and good, gave it unto a young man, and he hasted to dress it. And he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. And they said unto him, Where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I am waxed old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? And the Lord said unto Abraham, Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I of a surety bear a child which am old? Is there anything too hard for the Lord? At the time appointed I will return unto thee, according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I laughed not, for she was afraid. And he said, Nay, but thou didst laugh. And the men rose up from thence, and looked towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord, to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. And the Lord said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now, and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces from thence, and went toward Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. And Abraham drew near, and said, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy, and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked. That be far from thee? Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And the Lord said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which am but dust and ashes. Peradventure there shall be lack. Peradventure there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, If I find there 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. And he spake unto him yet again, and said, Peradventure there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said unto him, Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure there shall be 30 found there. And he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord. Peradventure there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, Oh, let not the Lord be angry, And I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the Lord went his way, as soon as he had left communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned unto his place. So, recapping what happened in chapter 18, 3 men appear at Abraham's tent door. He ran to them, bowed out of respect, got water to wash their feet. This is an ancient custom that's out of respect. Invited them to rest under a tree. He asked Sarah and a manservant to help him prepare a meal for the visitors. So the 3 men asked where Sarah was. They asked by her name, and Abraham told them she was in the tent. She could hear them, but they didn't know she could hear them. One of the men told Abraham he will return after Sarah had a son. Sarah laughed because she thought her and Abraham were too old to have children. God told Abraham that Sarah laughed, and the man continued, responding to this, Is there anything too hard for the Lord? This is in verse 14. The man then repeated that he would return, and Sarah will by then had a son. Sarah lied that she laughed out of fear. The men left. They were escorted by Abram, and they were walking towards Sodom and Gomorrah. As Abram are escorting these men, verse 17, God has a rhetorical monologue, and he debates whether he should reveal his plans for Abraham, that all nations will be blessed because of him. And he just continues saying that he knows Abraham will keep God's ways and instill those values in his offspring. So by verse 19, this rhetorical monologue is over. Verse 20, the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is grievous. So cry means an outcry or a clamor, a cry for help. And great means notably large, numerous, or ample. And grievous means severe, grave, likely to cause great harm. So the outcry for help from Sodom and Gomorrah is numerous, ample, and the sin of these cities is severe, grave, likely to cause harm. God tells Abram and the men that he would check the condition of the area. The men continued to walk towards Sodom and Gomorrah, while Abraham, the men continued to walk towards Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham waited for God. Abraham intercedes, sensing that there was destruction that was going to happen in this city. Abraham intercedes, and he says, or interceding means he starts to pray for the city, and he's advocating for the possible righteous people in the city. So that's what interceding is. It's advocating. So Abraham just says, hey, will you destroy the righteous people with the wicked people? And he says, if peradventure means perhaps. But Abraham says, perhaps if there are 50 righteous people, will you destroy the city? God responds that it is not his intention to slay the righteous with the wicked. And God tells him, okay, well, I will spare the land if you can find 50 righteous people. And then Abraham gets humble. He says, I understand I'm taking liberties with you, asking yet another question, as I am only dust and ashes. That's verse 27. He says, will you destroy it if I can find 45 righteous people? God says, no. If you can find 45 righteous people, I won't destroy it. And then Abraham says, well, what about 40? And God says, okay, if you can find 40, I won't destroy it. Abraham gets humble again, and he goes, well, what about 30? God says, okay, if you can find 30. And he gets even more humble, and he says, well, what about 20? God says, okay, if you can find 20, I won't destroy the cities. And then Abraham asks one more time, He says, if I can find 10, if I can find 10, God says, okay, I won't destroy it if you can find 10. Then the Lord left. Abraham returned to his tent in Mamre. So I appreciate you watching that with me, and we will go into Genesis 19 next.